Hey guys, we are back with another San Diego Comic-Con NECA exclusive, taking a look at the other side of the DC Dark Horse 2-packs. Of course, we're talking about the Superman versus the Aliens pack, which, again, just like that Batman pack, has been something that I have been greatly looking forward to, but we still have this same kind of boring packaging this time around, although I do think that this one is a little better because of the fact you have a bit of a better logo when it comes to the Alien side of the house, but otherwise it's two logos on a very, very plain black box because, as far as I know, Warner Brothers wasn't cooperative in any way when it comes to packaging or something like that. So NECA did what they could do, and they gave us a box. But more importantly, it has our toys on the inside. You got your Superman, you've got your Xeno over there. So presentation's fine, it's just not all that flashy. Either way, we're going to pull them out, so let's do it. Let's crack these guys out and take a look. And here we are out of the package, our Superman versus Alien 2-pack. Definitely not the one that I was most excited about. I've always been more of a Batman fan over Superman, but I gotta say, after having this set in hand, this Superman figure is absolutely amazing. I almost would say that it's better than the Batman just because this is a true classic Superman, and of course we got the armored Batman first. When we get the regular Batman, my opinion may change, but for someone who has never been the biggest Superman fan in general, and someone who's never really wanted many Superman figures, I am pretty over the moon with this guy. He is, I don't want to say perfect because that doesn't really exist, but he's damn close. And this is a pretty solid Xenomorph too. Again, this is probably one of those situations where you're here for this guy, you're not here for this guy, but we're going to talk about them both. We're going to get Superman done first because I'm sure that's why you're here. So we're going to move this big guy aside and take a look at Superman first. So of course we're going to start with articulation and talk about how this guy moves around, but he's mostly the same as Batman. There is a lot of shared parts going on here, and of course he is a little different because he doesn't have all the armor that Batman does, so he is a little less hindered than our armored friend, but he moves really well no matter what. And I didn't really have any stuck joint issues like I did with Batman. He was pretty fine right out of the box. So as far as moving him around, the head can look up a little bit. It doesn't move too much, honestly, but it goes down really, really well, though, which has worked pretty well for me so far. Bobble side to side really well, and then full rotation. Your arms can go out. They rotate at the shoulder. Bicep swivel, of course, you've got double jointed elbows. You've got hinges and rotation at the wrist. You've got a crunch at the abs. It goes back and goes forward just a little bit. Waist cut, so you can twist them around. Legs go out. They kick forward, they kick back. Got your thigh cuts, double jointed knees. You do have a boot cut, and then you've got rocker, and you've got hinge. This is one area where he works a lot better than Batman, and then you've also got toe articulation on this guy as well. So he does move around really well. He moves about as well as you would have expected him to move based on knowing what this figure had coming, but again, he doesn't have any of the problems that I had with Batman, so in general, I've had a better experience with his articulation, though he is, for all intents and purposes, very, very similar. The only real difference on Batman is that he has those armored boots, which definitely hinder him a bit, where Superman is much more free-moving, and you can get him into some really solid poses here. Now, as far as the overall look and feel, that is where I was most interested when it comes to this figure, and that is still where I'm most interested because he's basically perfect. I really don't have anything negative to say about the way this figure looks. This is coming from someone who does not collect DC in any capacity whatsoever. This is my fourth modern DC figure that I have gotten in I don't know how many years. So I haven't been looking for a great Superman figure, I haven't been looking for a great Batman figure, but I have them. And this figure is, for my money, is all I need. It is pretty much perfect. This is a true classic Superman for me, and I think NECA has 100% knocked this out of the park. Same situation with Batman. I've got a figure for a property that I really don't follow in terms of toys, but now I want more of them and now I can't get them. This figure is just really decked out. He maybe doesn't look it at first, but there is a ton of paint shading on this body. It's just basically variations of blue, so you can kind of see as his muscles basically extend, he gets a little bit of a wave of blue in there. It's on the thighs, it's on the arms, it's most evident on the chest, and it's just a nice sculpt. It's a really classic look for Superman. The colors are incredibly vibrant, very, very saturated. The S logo on his chest is centered and perfect. No issues there. The very classic yellow belt with the red trunks would look fantastic. You've got the red boots down there, and then you've got the cape, which maybe has the one thing on it that I don't really like the most, but it's not anything that really bothers me. It's just the S on the back. It's not sewn on or anything. It appears to just be, I assume it's just glued on in some fashion, but it works, and it doesn't really look like it's going anywhere. It just, I don't know. I feel like it could be better, but at the same time, if it works, why screw around with it? The cape on its own is very similar to Batman in terms of its feel, and it does seem like it's actually connected at the shoulders. There looks to be like a cut in at the shoulder, so it's in there. It doesn't want to move. It's basically there, so I'm not really concerned about it going anywhere anytime soon. The fabric flows very nicely. It drapes over his body well. It doesn't hit the floor like Batman's does, so that's a little bit of a difference. And he just looks good. That's really all there is to it. He scales really well with Batman. Of course, being a more 7-inch style figure, he does not scale with a lot of other lines, but again, just like with Batman, for my money, that's not what I'm really concerned about. The big thing for me, though, when it comes to this figure, and I'm sure you already know where I'm going with this, is the head sculpt. It is truly superb. And I'm going to use that word again, perfect. Does that really exist? Maybe not, but this is as close as it needs to be for me. I think that NECA has done just a truly remarkable job with this head sculpt. The jawline is so square and just so stern. He looks very much like he is not someone you want to mess with. He looks like he is about to throw down. The paint is fantastic. That little curly Q hair that drapes over the forehead, perfect. The hair is really well done, a nice windswept look in there, and it has a very classic comic book look while also having that kind of Chris Reeve look in there as well. And I just can't get over how good this is. You know, I really want to see an unhelmeted Batman to go alongside this. I really think, though, in terms of the heads that we're going to get out of this small line, I really don't know how this can be topped. NECA has really pulled it out here. I don't have anything to complain about. It's a stunning piece of work. And then for our Xenomorph here, we have got kind of an interesting figure, because someone correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a resurrection alien, right? And that figure, I don't know if it's actually out yet or not, but we've finally got this guy, and I think it's a pretty cool figure. It's the same situation as with Batman, where I don't think everybody's buying this specifically for the 2-pack. I think Superman's kind of the draw here, just like Batman was the draw for the Predator set. But I do think this is a pretty cool figure, and it's got a pretty cool paint scheme. It's kind of weird looking in different lighting. I'm not really sure what color it honestly is at times. But let's take a look at how this guy moves around, because, you know, he does have a lot of joints to talk about. And I did have to heat some of them up, like I mentioned. I had to heat up the head mostly. The neck just didn't want to move. So a little heat works just fine now. So to start with, you've got an articulating jaw, and then you've also got the inner mouth that you can pop out there. And the head can move down, and then it can move backwards. And it's on a disc hinge with a ball at the top. The arms can go out, and they rotate. You've got a swiveling double jointed elbow. You've got rotating and hinging wrists, and then you've got finger hinges there. You've got a diaphragm cut. He doesn't really move forward and backward too well, but he does move side to side. The legs are the legs that have the big hip bones on them, so he can only go out so far, but, you know, that's the sculpt. Forward and backward, and then you've got rotating double jointed knees. You've got the kind of dog knee thing here, and then you've got rotation and a little bit of rocker down at the ankle. You also, of course, being an alien, you have got your rotating bendy wire tail, and this thing is massive. It's humongous, and it's got the kind of like the swimmer spikes on it like you see in Resurrection as well. So he does move around pretty well. I will say that balance is certainly a thing for these figures, as is usually always the case, just because of how big and honestly how kind of gangly they are, especially with this guy having the double knees. So you do have to pay attention to how you balance him, but you can get him into some really interesting poses. You can get him down on all fours, and then of course you can just have him kind of splayed out a little bit. So it takes a little work in some cases, but he certainly moves around really well, and I didn't have any issues with stuck joints really from the waist down or anything. It was mostly just at the head. So for this particular pack, I really didn't have too many issues when it comes to stuck joints. It was just a couple here and there, but otherwise, pretty solid figure in terms of articulation and some great movement possibilities. Now, when it comes to the overall look and feel on this guy, I'm sure he's not as exciting as Superman, because that is entirely new, and we see Xenos quite a bit. But this guy's really cool looking. I'm pretty happy with the way he turned out. And like I mentioned, he does have kind of an odd color scheme going on. At times, I thought he was just like a really dark brown gray, but there's also touches of blue that kind of runs through here. And the head on him, I'm sure it's not going to come through at all. I swear the head has purple in it. If I'm wrong, somebody let me know, but I can swear that there is some purple up in the actual, head dome thing up here, which looks fantastic. And then of course, you've got all of the requisite nastiness that's up there. You've got the big tubes that come out of the back, and just all of the kind of gunk that's inside of an alien, a xeno, their chemistry and their biology. All of it is on display here. So all kind of like the bones, and then all of what look like, again, mechanical kind of aspects, because that was what the original design was kind of going for. The biggest thing for me with this figure is the tail, kind of literally and figuratively, because of this design, this kind of spike in the fin almost back here. So you can kind of see it moves around really, really well. It's very rubbery, but the tail in general is incredibly long. It's a very big piece. It really will help with kind of keeping this guy up. You can kind of rest him back onto it a little bit. You don't necessarily need it if you can play the balance game well, but it does really help to kind of even him out a bit. Not to mention the fact that it's a really cool looking aspect of the figure in general. So, I mean, there's not a great deal more to talk about with this guy. Tremendous sculpt, excellent amount of paint detail. There's just a lot going on with this figure, and that's pretty much the case for all Xenomorphs from NECA. They are always kind of decked out when it comes to sculpt. And just the overall number of paint apps on this guy, he's pretty much covered from head to toe in some kind of paint that helps accent this wild sculpt. So whether you're into this set or not for this particular figure, you're in for a treat when it comes to actually looking and playing with this thing, because there is a lot to take in. It's just a stellar looking figure. Now, as far as accessories goes, the only ones that we get in this set are for Superman. That's pretty normal. Xenos rarely, if ever, come with accessory pieces. And you have to start with this incredibly nightmarish looking head sculpt, which has Superman gritting his teeth and, of course, missing his eyes. So this is not a defect. This is just how the figure works. So for this guy, you have some pretty awesome effect pieces. So to start with, you've got this little guy here. So you've got the beginnings of his heat vision, and they just pop in there and they look fantastic. So you can kind of have those. He's very angry. He's using his powers. But we've got this one, which, I mean, is definitely my favorite amongst the entire set. So you pop this guy in instead, and you have got the full heat blast with an impact effect at the end, and you've got him there just, going to town on someone. So this thing is fantastic. I mean, the head in general is hilarious without the effects in it, but they really work well. They stay in place exceptionally tightly. They are keyed as well, so they won't really fall out easily. And then to top all of this off, you've also got a set of extra hands here. So you've got some kind of up and away hands, so you can get him into a flying pose. Great sculpt on these. Great paint applications as well. So you got the fist hands for Superman, you've got the flying pose hands, you've got two heads, and then you've got two effect pieces, which makes for a pretty rounded out set, I think, for Superman in general. Of course, there is nothing for the Xeno, but that's neither here nor there. That's pretty standard stuff. So overall, this is a must-have set. I've never really been, again, a humongous Superman fan, but this is a stellar action figure, and I really can't emphasize that enough. It is, as best I can say, a perfect classic Superman figure. There's really nothing wrong with it. It looks fantastic. It moves well. It's got great accessories. And of course, it comes with a really solid Xenomorph figure that makes for a pretty well-rounded two-pack, especially if you're interested in this type of mashup when it comes to the DC Dark Horse stuff. If you love Superman figures, you're going to love this figure. If you like Alien figures, you're going to like this Xenomorph. If you like both, just like I said with the Batman and Predator set, you are in for a tremendous treat when you actually get around to playing with these things, because it's a great package, and Superman is definitely worth the price of admission alone. NECA did an amazing job when it comes to this guy. Definitely a must-have figure, probably up there in the top 10 for the year for me. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys SDCC 2019 Superman vs. Aliens 2-pack. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.